Good Sunday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majeski back with you here in the North Georgia Majeski Weather Studios with a special severe weather update here on your Sunday afternoon, March 15th, 2026. Well, it looks like we've seen some revisions from the Storm Prediction Center that has increased the severe weather risk across parts of North Georgia, especially western zones where damaging winds are becoming an increasing potential threat for our area. Now, before we break down this full update, if you're new here to our YouTube channel and you live anywhere here across North Georgia, let me introduce myself. I'm meteorologist Greg Majeski, and I'm on a mission to build a professional 24-hour weather channel here across North Georgia, and I sure could use your help to make that happen. All you got to do is subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. Just make sure you please hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And as always, if you ever have a question, please post that down below. Again, we got to build this channel one subscriber at a time. All right, so the changes that we've seen here is basically across the western zone. So we're talking about basically from Murray County coming down toward Paulding County and coming back down toward Troup and Meriwether. So the western zones have increased the threat here to enhance. That's level 3. The yellow, of course, is level 2, and the green is level 1. But these lines are going to be coming in here through the early morning hours on Monday. We're still tracking basically from, say, 2 to 8 o'clock, as that's the window for these storms to move on through. So let's break down the categories. We're first going to take a look at the tornado threat. That has not changed. We're still looking at the higher chances down here to the south for southern Alabama, parts of the Florida Panhandle, parts of western Georgia, but a lot of North Georgia is still running in that 5 to 9% range there as far as potential tornadoes. Where the risk has gone up is with the wind profile. So again, you see that red area, okay? That's getting us into that higher probability here. So we're talking 30%, as we're going to be seeing some very gusty winds, potentially up to about 70 miles per hour as these storms move on through the area. And of course, we have to watch for potential for isolated tornadoes to be embedded in that line as it's moving on through. The hail threat is not really a problem. We're not worried about that. Most of that will be back off toward our west, over toward Arkansas and Louisiana, and we're not going to have to worry about the hail threat. But it's predominantly a damaging wind threat, as well as isolated tornadoes that we're going to have to watch here for tonight as this thing will be moving off. And then once it moves off toward the east, it'll shift on over to the Carolinas. Notice they got a moderate risk over there going into the Carolinas. So count our blessings in this regard that this is coming in during the early morning hours and not during prime time heating, or else the risk factor for us, I think, would have been significantly higher. I mean, we're just lacking a little bit of instability. We've got some, but not a ton of it as this moves through the area. So as we go take a look at the watches and warnings, this is a vast system, folks. It's a big one, all right? We're talking about a blizzard up here for the high plains. In fact, I actually saw a severe thunderstorm warning earlier this afternoon in Iowa where they're planning a blizzard warning in that same area. Wind advisories all over the place with this thing. And of course, in the wake of this thing, we're going to have some cold air. So these are all your kind of freezing weather advisories here across the southeast once this goes by, going into your Tuesday morning. So that's what we'll be dealing with in the wake of this storm. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the model data. We're going to look here first at what's driving this, okay? The big factor driving this is the jet stream, okay? The jet stream is that river here that kind of drives the weather systems along, and we're seeing a disruption in the polar vortex that's driving some cold air very down to the south and a very strong jet stream. So as this thing's driving down to the south and it gets right in here, again, we got some very cold Arctic air coming right down the pike, and we got this very strong jet stream moving into across the area. So as this thing moving on through, it's pushing a squall line of showers and storms out ahead of it, and it's got what we call a little bit of a negative tilt here, where it's kind of bending back here a little bit as it's moving on through, and then it'll lift on out, and things will begin to improve once it moves on out. But in the meantime, we're going to have to deal with some very hefty thunderstorms. So let's go take a look at the latest model. I got this zoomed in for North Georgia, so you can get an idea to see here. Now watch very closely. Here is your timestamp up here in the right-hand corner. You see it right up there where it says 2 a.m. All right, so this is the last full run of the high resolution, not the hourlies, but the full run, which is at 12Z. Okay, that was basically 8 o'clock this morning. So as you can see here, as it's moving on in here, it slowed down a little bit on this particular run, showing 3 o'clock, kind of approaching into the Dalton area. And then moving here to the east. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's cutting down toward LaGrange, heading up toward Cartersville, and heading up toward Blue Ridge at that time, coming through metro Atlanta by 6 a.m., and then moving on toward the east. So you notice these are weakening a little bit as it moves into northeast Georgia. See the color cue kind of back down just a little bit there. Again, it could be a little bit of the impact of that little bit of residual wedge there showing up there a little bit. And then this thing moves off to the east, and then the temperatures are going to crash. And yeah, that's snow. We got some snow showers, snow flurries, maybe some sleet mixed in with this as this moves on through. Some very cold air comes in, and what we call the heights crashing. The cold air is just going to just collapse right down to the ground and really make it quite cold here in the wake of this storm. Now, the different ingredients that we're looking for here for this particular system, we look at instability, we look at wind shear, we look at the tornado index parameters. Those are the three models I'm going to show you here. And what I'm seeing right now as far as the surface CAPE, which is gasoline, that's fuel for the thunderstorms. They've come up just a little bit, but notice how much higher it is down here along the Gulf Coast. Higher instability down here. We're in the thousands, between 1,000 to 2,000. Up this way, 600, 700, so it's much lower. So the reason why the tornado threat is higher down here is because the instability is higher, okay? That's one ingredient we're missing. That's why I said it's the plus side of this is that it is coming in during the early morning hours. The other part of this is just tremendous amount of wind energy in here. We got some separation going on in here with the wind fields. We call it diffluence. We got that air. You can bring it right down to the surface with a nice, good, strong squall line that we're expecting here. And that is the main concern. And we do have wind shear. That's changing winds with heights. So the winds will be coming in from the south at the surface, but coming in from the west above it and from the northwest, and you're going to get from the southwest, and you're going to get spin there, okay? That wind shear. That's why the tornado threat will be there, a possibility for individual storms along that line. Now, because this is coming in at night, I don't think we're going to get the supercell development, individual thunderstorms out ahead of it. Now, tomorrow in the Carolinas, they're probably going to see that, but we're not going to see that here. Really not tomorrow, really going into Monday afternoon there over toward the Carolinas. But we're not going to see that. We're not have to worry about that for us here as we're just dealing predominantly with this squall line. All right. Now, let's take a look at the tornado parameters. What I want you to watch here, you see these higher colors in here. These numbers, that kind of shows you where the higher tornado threats are going to be in that particular area. You see where the higher colors are across eastern Alabama, down here toward the Florida Panhandle. We got a little bit up here, but not as high as down toward the south. That's why the higher tornado threat is running close to 15% down across southern Alabama and into the southern part of the state than it's compared to us. But we still have some there as this moves on through. So once this moves on through, it really takes off. Look what it does over here to the Carolinas. Look at this. It really shoots up big time here as we go into the late afternoon hours there for tomorrow afternoon as this moves on up the coast. So that's where that medium threat for moderate risk is for severe weather is going to be heading into tomorrow afternoon into the Carolinas and Virginia. Now, rainfall, maybe about an inch on this. We're not going to get flooding's not going to be a problem with this thing as this thing comes on through. That's not going to be an issue. The temperatures are going to crash like crazy. Look at the 3 a.m. temperatures here. Now, remember I said we have a little bit of a wedge in here. Look right up in here. Got a little bit of wedge in here, a cooler pocket. That could be a little bit of a stabilizing element, could weaken the storms just a little bit, but we're in the 60s. It's going to quickly crash into the 30s here. Look at this. That front's going to come on through here, and by the time we get to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a lot of temperatures here are dropping into the 30s. So any precipitation, expect some sleet, maybe a little bit of snow mixed in. Again, we've been too warned to worry about anything as far as accumulations or anything, but it will be around, I think. And then we're just going to see the bottom drop out here and get ready for a cold, cold night. Although I will say this on the high resolution, it's a little bit milder than what I think it's going to be. It's showing predominantly upper 20s to right around 30 degrees. I think it's going to be a little bit colder than that going into your Tuesday morning. And there will be some residual winds too. So a little bit of a wind chill to start your day. And we were not going to get out of the 40s for highs on Tuesday, folks. So again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday we recover, and then we'll warm back up by the end of the week. Now, before these storms even get here, we're going to see the winds increasing here overnight. Look at these wind gusts here. Going into the early morning hours. So we're talking, let me back this up just a little bit here. Get back it up a couple more hours here. Well, the line will be kind of approaching right here. You see it 38, 38, 38, 35, 38. Very gusty winds here before the front even arrives. So we're going to have some gusty winds here. And as this moves on through, again, I might suspect we're probably going to have some power outages here for tonight. Just count on it. Not everybody will get it. But this will move on through. And then the winds will still stay up a bit tomorrow, but not that bad. Looks like 25 to 30 mile per hour winds for tomorrow afternoon as this clears on through the area. So looks like we're in store for, again, what's going to be a busy, busy night through the early morning hours. And it looks like we're going to be dealing with this for till about morning time, around 8 o'clock or so. Should be finished by around that time. So again, I'm just going to back this up once again. I want to highlight this one more time. Again, we're talking about the western parts of the state here that have been added to that enhanced area. Almost the entire state of Alabama now is under that enhanced risk. So that wind threat is going to be the predominant threat, but we are going to see several tornadoes probably with the storm. Hopefully it's limited since it is coming in at night, but those nighttime thunderstorms are the ones that could be the worst for obvious reasons because folks are asleep and they're not really prepared. A lot of you guys will be okay. All right, you'll hear the gusty winds, you'll hear stuff going through, you'll sleep right through it, and your day will be fine. But some folks may have some downed trees in their yards. Hopefully damage will be kept to a minimum, and we won't have any big major problems, and hopefully no fatalities either as this moves on through the area. Always got to worry about that when you're getting into severe weather season. All right, that's y'all's update for today. Again, I appreciate you guys checking us out. Again, thank you to all the new subscribers here on the channel as we continue to grow. Eventually, we'll have our 24-hour channel up, and that'll be rolling 24/7. So when we do our live coverage, we'll just cut into that existing product. But hopefully, we'll get that going for you guys later this year. All right, that's it for now. You all take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you during the live coverage. Probably start that, I'm thinking around 3 o'clock in the morning, but we'll be here. All right, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.